Hey, Sample here. Thanks for joining me in my next episode of Honest Game Reviews. And today I got a special treat for you guys. I already mentioned in a couple of my videos that before my time as a Summoners War player and content creator on YouTube, I was heavily invested in a game called World of Warcraft. Like nearly failing all of my classes invested. Like no girlfriend until I was 18 years old invested. Like, I have no memory of my teenage years because I spent all of my time in front of a computer invested. I thought I closed this chapter of my life for good, but today I decided to risk it all and take a walk down memory lane for some additional content for my YouTube channel. Oh shit, it's still 15 bucks a month to play this motherfucker? I don't believe in paying for other people's work, so let's see if there are any alternatives out there. Ascension. No class hardcore classic World of Warcraft. Shit. Sign me up. Now let's be clear here. I normally do not like private servers because they are super unprofessional, insanely pay to win and rather unpopulated most of the time. But Ascension seems to be the exception to this rule. This is probably a good time for me to mention that so far I've not reached out to any of the developers of Ascension and the people behind this project. This is a completely unbiased and unpaid review. But with that said, obviously I will be sharing this video on a variety of outlets to see if I can get some more support in future projects. Like my last honest review on Destiny 6, this video will cover the basic principles of the game and give you my first impressions after playing the game for about 20 hours. Which, if you have played World of Warcraft, you would know that basically amounts to nothing. At least that's how it used to be back in the day. By the way, I'm pretty sure that at this point I've triggered the fuck out of the Ascension developer team, with me always referring to their game as World of Warcraft. I get it guys, it's a completely different experience. Well, to be honest, it really isn't. At least the leveling aspect feels pretty similar. And yeah, I kind of know what I'm talking about. I've leveled about 30 characters to max level back in the day. The main difference between Ascension and classic World of Warcraft is the fact that you can pick and choose your abilities from not just one class, but every old school class in the game, which allows for some pretty unique character customization, kind of. I'm pretty sure that in endgame, the meta is super narrow, with about 2 viable melee specs, 2 tank specs and a handful of support/healer specs you can choose from. But I might be wrong. Depending on how many views this video gets, I might do another review on late game of Ascension and tell you guys more about that. Another awesome aspect to Ascension is the difficulty, which old school World of Warcraft players kind of started longing for with every new expansion of World of Warcraft. Blizzard just kept making the game easier and introducing content that was way too simple in an effort to appeal to a broader audience, which from a financial standpoint makes total sense. But one thing that I've noticed with many games is that once the developers stop catering to the hardcore player base, the game starts losing the longevity rapidly. The leveling experience is pretty challenging. Especially in your early levels, you will die when pulling more than 2 mobs at a time, which sounds easier said than done, with many quests leading you through packed areas with 5 to 6 monsters just waiting to shit on your ass. In addition to that, resource management is something that new World of Warcraft players never came in touch with, and I myself never really enjoyed too much. With that I mean it's pretty common for you to run out of mana or HP after your 3rd or 4th monster that you've slain, which further encourages working with more than just one class tree. In my opinion, one of the coolest features that Ascension brings to the table is the variety of different playstyles you can choose from, such as Pussy, Normal and Hardcore PvP. So what's hardcore about World of Warcraft? I mean Ascension PvP. Aside from the fact that you'll encounter some really ridiculous specs in your fights, you can also drop some of your items upon death. Once flagged for PvP, you will also have to worry about both factions' players attacking you, which even further increases the stakes when being outside the capital city. Overall, I feel like PvP in Ascension seems like something really interesting that I will cover more in detail in the future episode, where I will try and record some low-level player versus player action and introduce a couple of viable builds. I usually end the first part of my honest reviews with some criticism for the developers in case they ever see this video. I want to start off by saying that overall I really enjoy playing classic World of Warcraft again. It's super refreshing in its unpolished ways, and even though I'd attribute parts of the enjoyment to nostalgia, I still think that it's a highly addictive and entertaining video game overall. I think the developers have to be super careful when changing anything about the player experience, since the difficulty is exactly the reason why people keep playing on your server. But I think that there are some distinctions that you have to make between elements of the game that make it hard because it kind of requires you to be skillful as a player, and aspects to it that are just hard because they are tedious. So for instance, even though the dungeon finder was not a vanilla feature back in the day, it makes searching for party members exponentially easier. But instead of instantly teleporting all members to the dungeon, they still have to take the trip to the specific dungeon if they want to clear it. Which in my opinion is a great metaphor for nice implementation of features into classic World of Warcraft without actually changing what made the game fun back in the day. So why am I telling you guys things like that? Because there are some aspects in Ascension that in my opinion are just borderline outdated and feel out of place in a contemporary video game. For instance, classic World of Warcraft had players take a trip to the capital city every 5 to 10 levels, because their abilities had to be upgraded. This was a pretty annoying process because it kind of broke the leveling flow and just added traveling time to your already insanely long leveling experience. But it also made the world seem a lot bigger and gave you opportunities to explore new places. The game experience did not start with endgame, but with your first step into this ever-changing world, which is a pretty awesome thing in its own ways, and arguably better than the contemporary World of Warcraft that people are playing right now. But why the fuck do I have to talk to every class trainer separately due to hybrid specs, instead of just making it so that you can just learn all new ranks from every class trainer in the capital city? This was not really intended by classic World of Warcraft, and instead of adding to the player experience, it's just a huge fuck you by the developers. In addition to that, if you change your abilities, you will have to relearn all ranks every time. On the topic of changing talents, holy fuck, this shit is expensive. I know that it was not a walk in the park back in the day in the original game, but 3 gold for 1 talent, that's just way too much. Go fuck yourself. Allow players to swap talents for free or put a time restriction on it, for fuck's sake. To sum up, I think the developers of Ascension are doing a great job, and I do believe that especially in endgame there will be a lot of differences compared to the original game that I've played back in the day. If they would implement these minor changes that I've briefly discussed at the end of this video, I would seriously consider giving them a 10 out of 10, because I just really enjoy testing their game and the newly added features. But until then, they will have to settle with the 8 out of 10 rating. Alright, and I think that's pretty much going to be everything for today's review. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. If you guys want to support me, if you guys want to see more videos, make sure to like this video and also let me know which sort of games you guys want me to cover next. I do have a couple of games already in my scope. I'm just not 100% certain which ones I want to start with. Writing those videos and scripts takes an absurd amount of time, and overall it's just a hassle compared to the normal videos and views that I'm getting. If you guys want to play this game as well, if you guys want to play Ascension, I'm gonna leave a link to the actual game in the description of this video. Feel free to add me. My name is Sample Text and Real Sample Text in game. I'm playing on the server Underhall, which is a no-risk PvP server, just to test things out. So if you guys want to be a part of my community there, just add me, say hello. I would really appreciate to play with some of my subscribers. Overall, you guys can tell by the footage that I have in my background that especially the early levels, I was pretty rusty. I haven't played this game for over, I'd say like 4 or 5 years, but I was pretty good of a player back in the day. I was ranking Guardian, which would be Gladiator in World of Warcraft, a couple of times, which is pretty tough in World of Warcraft because back in the day the competition was pretty hard. Overall, I'm not really sure how I will build my character. For now, I've tested a Warlock build, a Hunter build, and I kind of stuck with Paladin for now. Obviously, all of those builds have some sort of hybrid abilities in there. By the way, the footage that we're watching in the background right now is just me trying to clear a rare mob, and that rare mob is going to be at the bottom stage of this whole sewer thing that we're entering right now, clearing like 5 to 6 trash mobs right there. Basically, I don't have a lot of interrupt abilities, so what I'm usually doing is I'm trying to lay down some damage, heal, let my pet do a little bit of damage, and have some AoE abilities on the floor that do a little bit of damage to the trash mobs. And what I'm also trying to do is I'm trying to make use out of my frozen armor, which slows my opponents. I'm just trying to kite them while slowly chipping them down, because in a head-on fight against 5 mobs, you're most likely gonna die unless you're a tank. And what you guys see me do right there is I'm walking into the same room of the rare mob, but he has a ton of trash mobs with him. So my main goal right there is not really killing the rare mob, but just clearing out all of the trash mobs before I can focus on him. I'm trying to reset him after the fight, which is taking me like an absurd amount of time. So actually, this is kind of a race against time, because all the mobs outside of the dungeon are respawning. And now that we cleared all of the trash stages, we are finally able to attack the boss. I'm healing my pet up already preemptively, but since it's not really too happy with me right now, it's not doing that much damage. I do eat 1 shadow ball, and as you guys can see, that hits for like 400 damage, and I have about 2k HP. So I'm not really allowed to eat too much damage right there, but since he's basically casting all the time, it does allow me to hide behind corners. And once he is done with that one cast, what I usually do is I just quickly peek out and make him want to cast again. I basically take 1 or 2 melee hits in between, which my healing over time abilities do allow me to survive that at least. And from that point onwards, as you guys can see, this fight is basically just a rinse and repeat. I kind of have the strategy down, and at this point I just want to thank you guys again for watching other videos of mine as well, outside of just the regular Summoners War videos. It really means a lot to me. I'm trying to get to max level in about 1 or 2 days, and until then, see you guys in my next video. Bye!